Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the debut record from I Am the Night While the Gods Are Sleeping, out May 6 on Svart Records. The album has 8 tracks, 38 minutes in length, and they are a Finnish black metal band. Now you look at 8 songs, 38 minutes, you get that sense that this album is not going to waste your time, and that is true. It's an album that has this incredible drive, sense of continuity from beginning to end. It has a start, it has an end, but in between everything is coming together in order to not allow you to get off of this ride, to lose interest in this journey that you're on. It's built with a purpose for the listener and to give the album a purpose to itself. As far as the soundscape is concerned, the album is heavily rooted in 90s black metal, but it has 2 different motors or 2 different key experiences within it. On one hand, you have all those traditional black metal elements, the grimy guitars, the driven sound, very penetrating, very dark, very somber, but always moving forward. And on the other hand, you have the atmosphere given by the synths that moves the sound laterally. It contracts and expands. So it's an interesting aspect that you can only really afford to pull together with great mixing. Because on one hand, you have the album taking you forward, always driving forward with speed, with intent, with aggression. And on the other hand, the songs are also extending and contracting, creating a different size of the footprint that the tracks have, making them sometimes feel larger than life and then feeling like you're going into a funnel. This movement, this lateral movement mixed with a forward movement becomes the calling card of the soundscape of this album. You're gonna see it on every single track. The only thing I would have changed in this design is change the impact the atmosphere has or how the atmosphere comes across. Because after a few tracks it starts to become a little predictable and it becomes harder to tell the difference between the impact that it had on one track versus the impact that's having on another. So changing just how that atmosphere is merging within the songs and what's creating within the songs, perhaps make 1 or 2 more constant and not having this lateral movement be as exponential as it is, would improve the overall design. But still, to be able to have these 2 sets of movements, having these 2 different motors pulling in different directions and still allowing the album to be as cohesive, as balanced, as together as it is, it's definitely kudos to the man behind the mixing board, because the album has an incredible sound all around. And when you look at the drums, you have Valtteri from Paradise Lost and Bodom After Midnight. He offers so much power to this record, but the power is not overpowering, which goes back to the mixing. You have to understand how you're going to create a baseline, how you're going to create a foundation to a record that feels aggressive, that feels strong, that has strength within the drums, but not strength to the point that overshadows the 2 main focuses, the guitars and vocals, and to a certain degree the atmosphere. And that's exactly what you're going to get on this album. An album that has heavy drums, powerful drums, but not overpowering the experience of the record, the experience of the sound. On guitars, you have Marcus from Insomnium, Omnium Gatherum. On this record, you're going to get a different side of him, not as melodic, not as melancholic as you would expect. This is a black metal record, so he's going to be a lot more grimy, a lot more direct, a lot more driven, really cutting through. He's still going to incorporate some melodic elements in order for the guitars to have a little bit more life, to have a little bit more texture, to not feel flat or to not feel like the same style, the same approach that he used in one song is going to be the exact approach across every single track. So those elements are still sprinkled in there, but they're very few and far in between. The album is all about the drive, it's all about the dirt, it's all about the grime, it's all about that somber nature that the sound has, and he was able to deliver that with that 90s style approach from start all the way to finish. On vocals, you have Oko from Horizon Ignited, a band that just signed with Nuclear Blast, and he has a phenomenal vocal performance throughout the entire record. Very consistent. What do you get from him in the first song is exactly what you're going to get all the way throughout. But in order for the vocals to not feel uniform, because nothing else on this album really does, what they did was they added some extra layers here and there in order to create some volume, in order to expand the vocals, to make them feel a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, a little bit more powerful. They also added choirs in order to create a different kind of atmosphere or have a different impact into the overall atmosphere of the album. Some spoken word here and there, once again, really changing the dynamic vocally within the tracks in order for the songs to feel different from one another, because there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of the same elements coming across 8 songs, 38 minutes. So you have to change as much as you can without completely changing the dynamic of the record. And vocally, I felt like they really nailed it. All of these different pieces, all of these different parts really make the overall vocal performance feel a lot stronger, a lot more connected. This is an album that feels like a story. A story is being told on a song-to-song basis, and the vocals play a huge role in getting that message, getting that sensation, getting that mood across. Overall, for a debut record, this is a phenomenal album. The mixing is outstanding. That's definitely one of the highlights of the record. I enjoyed the sound experience. I enjoyed how driven it was, how dark it was, and the vocals were the perfect match for that sound. The only thing I would have liked to change is the atmosphere on this album. At times it feels slightly repetitive. I wanted that atmosphere to have a different impact in order for the songs to feel a little bit like they can break away from each other and not necessarily be tied at the hip. That's the only downside of the album. Outside of that, the record is really well put together, but it has an incredible cast behind it, so I wasn't expecting anything else. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Dawnbearer, a song that's very driven. It really feels connected with vocals and guitars driving that same experience. The drums are in behind, they're packing the sound, they're creating the foundation, and then you have the atmosphere weaving in and out, creating that lateral movement that's so important throughout the entire record. The vocals have some layers on this track, and they also have some spoken words, so you get a little bit of everything that the album has to offer vocally in one single track, which makes the track feel more dynamic. It has more movement, it doesn't stay stagnant, and that's really important for the perception of the listener, to keep the listener engaged, to keep the listener connected. It's a powerful song. It's a song that has a lot of energy, and it feels complete in the way it comes across. Next you have The Owl, and The Owl is a song that really represents the drums well. If you want to hear how powerful the drums are on this album, you listen to this track. The drums are phenomenal. They have so much strength. And then you have the synths with this blanket of atmosphere that just covers the track, but it doesn't cover the track completely. In some parts it covers it better, in some parts it's a little bit thinner. So that is some movement within the atmosphere that's going to be present within a very dynamic song all around. It's very dynamic musically, it's very dynamic vocally, it's very dynamic in the atmosphere that it offers. It's a song that has a sense of growth to it. It evolves, it merges. That storytelling aspect that I was mentioning earlier is really well represented in the movement that this track has, because you really feel like you're following a narrator, or you're following the movement of a character from start to finish. And that enhances the experience. It gives you that purpose to a song that has dark and aggressive as the two main components of how it feels and how it comes across. Last but not least, among the unseen ones, this is my favorite track on the album. It's a song that has a lot to offer. I feel like it has so many different layers that it's almost impossible to peel them all, so you just gotta take it for what it is. It has an impact, it offers an impact, it has strength in the sound, in the atmosphere, and how the two combine with one another. The vocals really guide the overall journey from beginning to end. You feel like you can hold on to those vocals and be able to understand exactly where you are and where you're going and how you're going to get there. At times, sound-wise, it feels relentless. It feels like it's just going to destroy everything in its path. It just has this sense of not being able to be stopped. But then it also has moments where it becomes more melodic, more melancholic. It breaks those routines. It changes completely. It's a track that goes in so many different directions, and yet you always coming back to the same place. And then it finishes with some of the best vocal lines in the entire record. They are bone chilling. Those vocals, those clean vocals at the end of the track are phenomenal. It really puts the exclamation mark on a song that just takes you in so many different directions, like I said, while keeping you in the exact same place the whole time. This is it. I Am the Night, While the Gods Are Sleeping, out May 6th on Svart Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.